Has to go.
So we'll call this meeting to order at 7:01 PM on July 10th. So we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do roll call.
What's that?
Do roll call.
Well, I can see you three are here, so we're good. Yep.
Okay, and then public comments.
You don't want to say anything?
No.
Okay.
No public comments. Consent agenda. So we approve minutes of the March 9th, 2024 public safety meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Items for action and or discussion. So. Have the discussion and possible recommendation to the Village Board of Trustees on an intermunicipal agreement between the town and Village of Fredonia regarding town code enforcement.
All right.
You have anything on that, Chris?
Of course. So a few months ago, the township approached the village marshal regards to town code enforcement. So the difference is, if somebody's speeding through the town, obviously the sheriff's department could handle that. But when it comes to actual like municipal violations, like somebody has too many chickens or I don't know, a building out of whack or cars in their lawn and things like that, things that we normally would rely on our marshal's office for, they don't have that type of officer. So their options are they can hire the county sheriff's office to do that, which is grossly expensive for them. They could hire a constable, which is in a sense hiring anybody to be that person and acting in a law enforcement capacity, or they could appoint a code enforcement officer. So what this agreement has in front of you is it really just establishes a contract between the village and the township that the town would hire the village marshal's office to be that code enforcement officer. And it would be done on a case-by-case basis. So there might be some months where there'll be no issues going on. There might be some months where there are. But either way, it breaks down on the last page. You see a breakdown of the costs. And so what Eric or Marshall Leet and I did is we took the actual costs. Keep in mind, we have our own part-time department, so our costs aren't that large. So we took a part-time deputy's wages, we took their clothing, what that total cost would be. We added in the little bit of benefits that we account for, and we developed a cost per deputy. And then we broke that down based off of hours worked for a person, how often that they would get, or how much they would get compensated by us for. And then it came down to an hourly deputy cost. And then we broke that down even further into the estimated amount of hours that we think the township would need. And so it's about 12 hours, so in a sense, one call a month. Again, we're not anticipating a lot of calls here. And so the contract ends up being $1,771.13 or $147 a month. And so again, this is not meant to be a money-making tool for us, but we're in a sense getting reimbursed on a per call basis if and when calls are handled. The other part to this is that we all belong to the Mid-Moraine Municipal Court. So the township would need to join the Mid-Moraine Municipal Court for tickets to get processed through. The village then would, in a sense, siphon that income to help cover this cost. And then anything beyond what covers our costs would go back to the township, if that makes sense. So we think it's pretty fair, easy agreement. The marshal's pretty comfortable with the workload that this would cause for him and his team. And it just seems like a win-win for, more collaboration between the two municipalities. So that's all I got.
So then to get approved, this would have to go to the board. correct?
Yeah, so this is just a draft form. So it's been worked on by both sides. We're comfortable with it, but you guys are taking a look at it. The township, because they don't have committees, right? The town board has reviewed this already and they're pretty comfortable with it. So assuming that you guys give it a green light, then it'll go before the village board for a thumbs up. And then it would probably get started in fall, winter time because the township can't just automatically get to be a part of Mid-Moraine. They have to do it during the sign up time, which is in fall. And so it wouldn't even start until later on this year.
Do you have any comments? Seems pretty straightforward to me. As long as the marshal's office is good with it, it doesn't seem like it would be a deal. Either of you have anything?
I'm not seeing anything jumping out at me right now.
So I think this is something that could go before the board.
And we just need a motion to recommend to the village board.
Oh, just
By anybody can.
motion to recommend
Sure.
an intermunicipal agreement between the town and village of Fredonia regarding town code.
Second that motion. So all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, so review of village intersection safety.
Yeah, so this was brought up by a few different trustees, including President Lenz, specifically on Fredonia Ave, both at the Milwaukee Street intersection and Fillmore. You know that with Highland reconstruction, we did create that crosswalk area with the light, which seems to be pretty popular of a safety precaution and tool to have. And so when a couple of those questions came up, we brought it to Marshall Leet. Then they did a traffic report. So that's in your packet. And overall, you could see that speed isn't really much of a concern, even though it's easy for us to judge. And I'll put it in Marshall's words. It's easy for us to stand on the sidewalk, watch a car drive by and assume that, oh, that guy must be speeding. It must be going 45 miles an hour. Our perception of speed typically is off. And so this report kind of justifies that. It says the average speed, in this one intersection was about 28 miles per hour, and talks about at the high end it was 32. And then if you look at the marshal's office report, he talks about this and gives recommended steps. So overall, we're just addressing the concern that was brought up. If you guys want us to look into it further, we can. If you want us to start budgeting for little crosswalks here and there, the marshal gives a recommendation of what kind and where to put those. But it's just open for you guys to discuss and decide if you want to do further action at those intersections. Or if there's other intersections we should look at instead.
I'm sorry, I'm really bad and I'm not sure exactly what intersection that is.
Yeah, pull up a map.
That's this way, right?
So
Both
we're,
of them are down there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Fillmore's right next to Jen's.
Yep.
And there's a lot of foot traffic that crosses right there.
Say again.
There's a lot of foot traffic that crosses right there.
we want to go to the park
Mhm.
and the same for the other, I would say kids want to go. to
Yeah,
the
there's
park.
kids, there's the daycare, there's St. John's, there's the other parochial school. Yep.
And I would like the idea of if we were gonna do lights for crosswalks down closer to Fillmore rather than up on Wisconsin, because right as you crest that hill is Wisconsin there.
Mhm.
And I'm sure the foot traffic will only get higher right there as the splash pad gets finished. So do we want to look into the costs of something similar to what we have up on Highland, with the flashing?
I mean, I could tell you it was about 14,000 when we did that up there. That's again, that's establishing the electrical conduit, it's having the sign, I don't know if you guys remember, but the sign is what held us up on Highland because it was on back order for like 5 to 6 months. And so obviously it's not something we do this year, but we would add it into our planning for a future year.
I suppose the other option that Marshall Lee suggested is gonna be quite a bit more expensive. That being the red lights that the pedestrians control. Sounds like it'd be significantly more costly.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the one up here is very attention grabbing when you activate it, as long as you actually activate it. So if somebody were to activate it, there should be no reason somebody wouldn't see those flashing lights. And I did see where they said like the flashing lights all the time, but I would probably prefer the flashing lights only when the pedestrian is trying to cross, because
Yep.
it's gonna be more sudden for somebody.
Yep.
Because it'll be
new instead of
It'll
if
be
it's
new
always
instead of
on.
a
you're gonna drive by
constant,
it,
you
but-
get used to seeing it when you're driving by.
Yep.
Okay.
So I heard that, and then is there a certain intersection you feel like would be a good one to start with?
Well, I think Fillmore there, right? Kind of crossing at the bottom of the hill would be or I mean, on the straight there would be a good spot. Or would that be,
Seems like Milwaukee would have more foot traffic. It's one of the main intersections, north, south, east, west.
yeah, and Milwaukee might even get more foot traffic once the splash pad is finished, because they can come down and take the trail to the splash pad. And there's a lot more neighborhoods.
Or are we limiting it to one intersection, or are we considering two?
Is there a discount to more intersections you do?
Well, I'm sure there's a tiny discount, but not enough that it should influence your decision making. Even if you guys say 2, right, even we might do 1 next year and then 1 the year after, so.
What if we say we prioritize? And if I were king, which we have no kings. I would prioritize Milwaukee and then Fillmore.
Mhm.
Is there any chance the county works with us on this to help with some of the costs of that, being it's a county road that they're trying to cross?
I guarantee you, if we asked the county, they would say that any municipal signage or traffic way, things like that are all on us. As we asked them that with Highland and all that stuff. Expanding into Dollar General, that wing into the driveway. We asked for help with the crosswalk, or not the crosswalk, the pavement marking and stuff that was there, and that was all on us too, so. But yes, I can always, doesn't hurt to ask.
Otherwise, stop signs are cheaper.
Yeah. Although I bet if we put a stop sign on there, then they would care, the county. Okay, well, I heard, the flashing lights like we have over at Highland, start with Milwaukee, then Fillmore. That is good direction, so. We don't need any formal action from you guys. It just helps our planning then as we move forward.
Yeah, because I think anyone else beyond Fillmore would still have to walk back down to Wisconsin in order to go across the street to the park. Okay. So discussion on Fire Fund 350 and future CIP needs.
All right. So this is our fun topic. So I'm gonna give a little history here. I know that trustee Becklund knows, but the other 2 members might not. So before our times here as a current staff, the budget line items for the fire department were split amongst, I think, mostly the general fund and the fire fund. So the problem with doing that is that we didn't have an actual picture of what the costs versus the income of that one department was. So then when I came on board and we merged all of the actual income and expenses together, we were able to see a true income versus expenses of the fire fund and our operations. And surprise, surprise, we didn't have enough money coming in to cover the expenses. I mean, the chief knows about this. It's been a constant concern. So every budget year, we recognize that, and we typically do a general fund transfer in our budget from the general fund to the fire fund to cover whatever deficit is there. And so we typically wait till the end of the year. We make sure everything gets paid. We see how much revenues we get from ambulance income and things like that. And then the difference of which we move over from the general fund. So while that's not a best practice, you know, we're surviving and we can handle that. Two things though that are gonna continue to hurt us. One of which is obviously increased costs, right? Costs are gonna continue to go up for the fire department, just like they are for everybody else, which means that probably the amount that we're gonna be moving from the general fund, which again, these are actual taxpayer dollars, to the fire fund is gonna have to continue to grow, which is gonna hurt all the other things that the general fund is supposed to pay for. And then two is we have real capital needs, and you know, the chief will tell you about them. An ambulance that's, you know, probably gonna be $500,000, a fire engine that's gonna be $1.5 million. That, I mean, I can sit here and advise you all day long, but there's some things that I just don't know how we're gonna pay for realistically without drastically raising taxes or having to drastically cut right somewhere else. And so I think we need to start having these conversations now in order to prepare what's to come. I'll just share a little bit more on what we have kind of planned already, and then I'll let the chief talk about those two units and maybe other capital stuff you coming up. So on the ambulance, we've recognized that we're gonna have an ambulance purchase here coming up soon, you know, the next 3 to 5 years. We have set aside capital dollars for different places. There was already a buildup, a little bit of designated fire dollars that was held in the CD that we've merged. And then there was some other pot of money that I don't remember. And then finally, we've also started budgeting for an actual ambulance. So we're sitting at, like, I think I just checked it yesterday, 195 is in our capital fire fund account that is meant for large capital purchases for the fire department. There are opportunities like this year, if we come under budget with other CIP items, so then we can use that difference to allocate towards the ambulance. We can continue to kind of pinch pennies along the way to get there. But, you know, are we gonna have 500,000 by the time that the chief wants this ambulance? I don't know. And even if we did, that doesn't answer the $1.5 million question that we have too with the fire engine that's coming. So maybe I'll pause there, and then chief, maybe you can talk about those device or those capital needs that we have within the department.
So we were talking about trying to pull up the capital equipment list here. Capital equipment, we have an ambulance that is slated for 2030. I'm gonna start with that one. So the ambulance slated for 2030, like Christoph said, we have 190,000 or 195,000 sitting in reserve right now for that. We've been out looking at pricing over the last 6 months. We put some groups together down at the firehouse to start looking at pricing and lead times. We have anywhere from $340,000 to $360,000 for the base ambulance, and then the cot system that goes inside of it is about $60,000. So we're talking about a $400,000 investment on an ambulance replacement. We have a 28 to 36 month lead time, and that was talking to multiple different vendors 2 weeks ago. We went to the State Fire Chiefs Conference. So we in order to hit that 2030, somewhere around 2027, we need to start looking at replacement or sooner. So that's the ambulance. And again, we've got bids from 4 different vendors right now. we had a vendor stop in as they were on their way out to the State Fire Chiefs Conference. They provided us the viewing of a $480,000 ambulance. We don't need that. We don't want that, right? Ambulances are typically a 10-year lifespan on them. This one was actually purchased in 2015. We put it in service. When we purchased it, my plan was, hey, we're gonna get 12, 13 years out of this before we need to replace it. However, that vehicle was in an accident up here at the intersection. We were T-boned up at the intersection. We ended up putting a new chassis underneath the existing box. So the box on that ambulance that we see every day is a 2015 box, and then the chassis is a 2018. We've had a lot of problems with it electrically since that crash. We've been working through those, but so if we put it at 2018 for the vehicle, you know, I said 12 years, so we're pushing to 2030 is where we have a target is still yet, still holding that. So we're about $400,000 on that. Funding that, I know that, well, let me go to the aerial ladder. Our aerial ladder is a 1998 apparatus. There's typically a 30-year lifespan on those vehicles before you start to see problems. And when I say problems, you'll see problems with the aerial device not passing tests. You'll see problems with the pumps. The piping on the pumps will start to deteriorate on it just from corrosion. Not lack of maintenance, because we do maintenance on them every year religiously. It's just the water inside the pump that causes the piping to corrode. Neighboring department a couple years ago had to take their largest engine out of service because the piping rotted out to the point that it couldn't be used anymore. So they pulled it out of service, ended up waiting, I think, a year or two before they could get it replaced. So it happens, and that vehicle is 32 years old, I believe it was, when that happened. So we're getting to that time frame in 2028 that we're at that 30-year lifespan. The ticket price on that one is anywhere from, right now, it's anywhere from 1.3 million to 1.98 million for that piece of equipment. Now, the aerial ladder, it's a huge investment, and there could be lots of questions that people ask about the aerial ladder itself. Do we really need it? It is the only aerial apparatus that we have up here in the northern part of the county for those three departments that we respond with simultaneously. There was talk about making the other municipalities pay for that, but then that's going to open up the can of worms, and we'll have the other municipalities coming back and saying, well, why don't you pay for our apparatus that we buy then too, because you use that as well. So it's kind of a give and take. So that's the pricing on that. We got pricing from two different vendors on those. E1 was one of the vendors, and they were the 1.98, and then Reliant Fire Apparatus, which was a Pierce product, which is made here in Oshkosh and Appleton. It's part of Oshkosh Truck. That was the $1.3 million to $1.5 million price tag that we had on that one. There is options out there for financing that I shared with Christoph, that Pierce offers 15-year financing at $131,000 a year to fund that. That would have it paid off at half of its life. We did recently have a ISO, Insurance Services Office, did an audit of the village. And I'm waiting on those results back. When we get those results back, I did pose the question of, I have 3 fire apparatus in the station. I have 2 engines in the ladder truck. I did pose the question to ISO, if I get rid of one of the engines and go down to 1 engine and 1 ladder truck, how will that affect my ratings? And those ratings are your house insurance, your fire insurance on your house, but more importantly, it's for all of our commercial properties here. So we want us to keep that number as low as possible, and that's based on what our calculated fire flow is. What do we have for apparatus? What's our biggest building? There's a big building, and then there's like the 3rd biggest building, and they calculate fire flow.
and we have to have that, right? But now we're combined with having Belgium come to our calls, so we get to use their apparatus as well. That's a good thing, right? Because now we can potentially reduce our fire apparatus and get rid of a vehicle. Possibly. I think about selling our heavy rescue pumper that we have down there, that we could potentially get $175,000, $200,000 for, which could help fund maybe the rest of the ambulance, right? Maybe sooner, and get that spread out, get that done, and we can start saving for the ladder truck further out. Ladder truck, fire truck is the same time frame. It is 36, it's a little bit more, it's 36 to 48 months, 36 to 42 months, sorry. Lead time, which is crazy ridiculous. I don't understand it because they can build the truck in 6 months. It's 5 to 6 months. Once it hits the line, that's completely done, but it's taking that long to get it in queue and go through the process, which is crazy to me, but whatever, it is what it is right now. So that's my thoughts. We potentially could get rid of a piece of apparatus, and then, you know, that heavy rescue 663 that I'm talking about getting rid of is slated to be replaced in 2030. We would avoid that cost at that time by going down to 2. And I know that over the time of this whole paramedic program that we've been going through here for the last 2 or 3 years now, we've been always talking about, if you don't have enough butts for in the seats, why do we have all the apparatus, right? So that's been kind of a talk down at the firehouse right now of how often does that third truck actually go out? And if it doesn't go out enough, let's get rid of it. Let's get it out of the station. It's costing us maintenance money every single year. So it's just some of the thoughts that have been going through my head, and some of the possibilities that we could look at for saving money in the future, but also getting some money now to fund something maybe a little bit sooner.
So that's why we're starting this conversation now. You know, these decisions might not be when you guys are on the village board, but we need to start planning and preparing for whatever that's gonna look like.
That's the part that I said to Christoph. It's something that it's crazy that we have to look 3 years out and just make a decision today for something we're not gonna see for 36 months. You may not be here, might not be here, you know, it's just, we're making a decision today for the future. It's crazy, but it's where we're at.
So we're here to brainstorm ideas. So what else you got?
Well, how often are the 3 trucks going out?
I can tell you right now that we will take out 2 vehicles on any major fire. Do we get the third one out? Rarely,
Right.
rarely. With all the other apparatus, all the other vehicles we have down there, people will get to the scene with other vehicles. That third vehicle has our crash rescue stuff. So if we get a car accident out on 57 tonight, that's the vehicle that goes out for that. Otherwise, it doesn't respond to a fire until it's the third vehicle out. Third truck out, I should say, right? I shouldn't say third vehicle, third truck or engine out of that station. We've got pickup truck now, a brand new pickup truck that can haul people. We've got an ambulance that can haul people out there. There's other avenues to get people from the station out to the scene to help out. So
Where would all that crash stuff go?
on another engine, you know, when we designed this new ladder truck, we would make sure that there was cabinets in there to house all that crash rescue stuff.
Okay.
All the jaws of life, the airbags, all that stuff, we would put on another vehicle. I've already had the engineers down there brainstorming on where do we go with it. If we get rid of this rig tomorrow, where do we go with it, right? Because we got to find a place. We talked about getting rid of that rig and going and buying another $40,000 pickup truck and throwing it in the back of the pickup truck too. So. Lots of options to get, because that replacement of that engine in 2030 is probably gonna be $1 million. I mean, Belgium just spent $1 million and $900,000 on a simple engine. And we're gonna hopefully avoid that cost. It's not gonna be a savings that you're gonna see directly, but indirectly, you're gonna not have to invest in that.
Your cost avoidance.
Yeah.
So the fire department has a nonprofit, right? Or they're technically a
There's an
nonprofit?
association.
Or the association?
Yeah.
So I guess what has the association been doing throughout the past few years for fundraising?
The association does not fundraise to supplement the funds of fire department operations. The reason that the association was created was to fundraise so we could buy extra stuff. The association has put money towards, when we built the firehouse, the sign out in front was not included. We have a multi-million-dollar project and there was no sign included, so the association funded that. The association will give 2 scholarships every single year to Northern Ozaki Scholarship or Northern Ozaki School District. It is more of a public relations thing than what it is for fundraising for us to give you $10,000 for a vehicle. We have 2 fundraisers, 2 brat fries a year, which make about $1,500–1,600. So that's it. That's what it does. You know, we used the association funds to, we received a fire safety trailer with the association. I shouldn't say with the association. The fire department obtained a fire safety trailer from Thiensville Fire Department when they got rid of it. They were gonna just get rid of it, give it away. They gave it to us for free. Our association used their funds to revamp that and revitalize that. We use that for education at the schools and at fire prevention. What else does the association do? We name tags down at the fire station or on the lockers. It's little stuff like that. Like I said, it's 2 brat fries, $3,000 a year. They do a gun raffle that's maybe $3,000 that they make, so it's not a whole lot. We do have an idea. They do have some money in reserve, but they were talking about the associations again. I'm not over that association. I removed myself from that. I am the fire chief. I work for the village. The association is something totally separate, but the association has some funds available that they were talking about potentially using to buy a UTV or put money towards a UTV potentially in the future. So there's some savings there. There's some money that's there, but it's not enough money to fund a full UTV.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand it's the public relations side, but it's also a side to show the village to that, you know, the association's kind of doing their part to help contribute to the cost of potentially an ambulance or a fire truck because.
So I'm gonna ask this then.
So,
Should the police department have an association and fund their police car? Should the DPW have an association and fund their snowplow truck? We are still an entity of the village. So that association again was done just for the little things. Not being a corporation like you have in Wabica or over in Belgium, where they do fundraising for air packs and everything else. So I guess if we go that route, then the other 2 departments need to do the same thing. That's my peace of mind on that, my opinion.
So I think, but you know, just hearing your point, I think you see other communities, right? And other communities do have probably more robust, right, fundraising arms like that do that. I think there was just article about.
But they're not municipality. They're not municipality.
no, I'm not necessarily.
No, but
trying to
John,
attack
going
and say-
going with what he's saying, they're not municipality owned. Cedarburg Fire Department, yeah, they have a huge fundraising arm and they had their day when they were running that rummage sale down there back 2 decades ago. They were the richest department, but guess what? They were a private corporation. They were doing that. They were not municipal owned, or you know, they were funded through a contract. Wabica Fire Department used to do fish fries. Every Friday night, there was a fish fry in Wabica, back 25+ years ago. I was part of that department 30 years ago, and I was part of that fish fry, and every Friday night, we were there doing fish fries. But they're a separate corporation too, so it's a different mentality. Going outside of our county, Silver Creek Fire Department is a separate corporation. They do a chicken fry, they do steak fry. They do that.
No, and I'm not trying, I was just, again, tossing ideas of what
Yeah.
we could do to fund.
Yeah, you do. I just see it as if you push and say the association needs to start funding $10,000 or $20,000 for stuff, the association is gonna go away. You are asking volunteers to volunteer to raise money for a job that they're volunteering for. You know, I don't wanna go there. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
So,
I'm afraid to see what can happen if you keep pushing tax increases on
I get that. And that's why I said this is the
village
tough-
residents
this
as
is
well.
the toughest decision. Making that decision to go for this paramedic referendum was a tough decision, but this right here. For $2 million over the next 4 years. That's the toughest decision I'll ever make, you know, and have to present to you guys and say, we need to do this.
Yeah, I mean, just to quantify it, so if you looked at like the leasing agreement, you said it was like 136, right?
131 for 15 years.
So that's in a sense, another paramedic program on top of what just got passed.
Yeah.
Is how much that money equates to. So it's like we're doing the paramedic program again, just in borrowing for that one piece of equipment.
And that's 15 years then. Right? It's just.
Yeah. And that's not to say that we could, instead of doing a leasing option, right, we could do a 20, 25, 30-year bond through the state and it would be a lower annual price. But either way, it's gonna be a large impact, right?
It's huge.
So again, I'm not expecting anybody to come up with the golden answer right now, but throwing that out there.
Something to get
Something we have to
something to
be
get the
thinking
wheels
about.
start turning, right?
Yeah.
Get the ideas out there, get the thoughts.
And then back on the fund itself, I did want to point out that, as you guys know, I do a 6-month annual review of our budget each year. And each year, I know the chief gets sick of me doing this, but each year I challenge each of the department heads, not just you. To say, all right, this is kind of where we're at, where can you cut back? And so the chief's gonna be doing that due diligence as well and seeing where we can kind of lean off a little bit. But even those answers are not gonna be significant enough to either A, cover up that fund, or B, have us start to save for other capital projects too. And again, I don't have that magic answer aside from money from on high and what might come, but yeah. And this is happening all throughout the state. It's not just us. We just had our fire safety meeting and I mean, it's everywhere. We're all hurt. And I hope that out of that fire safety study, there might be some more collaboration things on vehicles and equipment, stuff like that we could be doing for long-term savings. But again, that's not gonna be a magic pill either, so.
You know, and we've had conversations between us about, you know, no decisions are gonna be made on a fire truck until this study is done and we understand what direction somebody might be going. And we have time, right? We have time. We're not in a dire need of it. You know, the other option that's out there, I guess, is something I didn't mention, was neighboring department, Random Lake, just went out and bought a 13-year-old vehicle, but aerial veteran. They went out and bought a used fairly decent, good deal on it. I think they ended up paying like $475,000 for it. Is that an option? I don't know. You can find something out there that's in good shape with only 13 years or 15 years on it. You got another 15 years, you bought yourself some time. I said in the meeting before, you know, Cedarburg Fire Department, again, the richest fire department in the county. They were the richest fire department in the county. When you hear them talking at a chief's meeting, that they're talking about buying a used piece of equipment, times are getting tough. Times are, you know, that's not necessarily times getting tough. The prices of these vehicles are going through the roof and nobody can afford the damn things anymore. So
Yeah,
that's the part that we're all struggling. We bought a vehicle in 2020 and it was $620,000. Simple truck, 2020. Belgium buys one in May of 2025 and it's $900,000. Same exact vehicle, nothing different on it. 5 years and $300,000.
be nice too to move these years around a little bit. I mean, I understand the ambulance is 15 years and the fire
Yeah.
truck's 30, but if we can move them kind of so they're more off of each other, where all of a sudden we're not looking at a fire truck and an ambulance at the same time.
Because of their lifespan though, they eventually kind
Yeah.
of
intersect
Eventually
at some
they'll
point.
hit each other, and it just sucks that way. You can try to plan, you know, and 20 years, 30 years ago, when I joined the department, yeah, they were all spaced out, but all of a sudden, here we are. In 3 years' time, they come together. But I really think the smartest thing for us to do is to get rid of that engine that is slated for 2030. Start looking at that and saying, what can we get for it right now? And get rid of it. Get rid of it now rather than waiting 2, 3, 4 years down the road and then losing more money potentially on it, right? And then it only becomes maybe worth $120,000. Get what we can get for it. Figure something else out.
Or maybe with a fire engine crisis right now, it might be worth even more.
Yeah, well, and true, how true, you know, we had, my plan was to run the specs off. Scan the specs into, and send them via email to this company called Brindley Mountain Fire, and find out what they'd give us for it. Southern Ozaki Fire Department, which is Mech 1 in Thiensville. Thiensville has a ladder truck that was very rarely used, and the Southern Ozaki Fire Chief said, we're gonna get rid of it, we're gonna sell it, right? Brindley Fire came in and said, we'll give you $275,000 for it. He says, well, you know what, why don't we put it on your site, let it go for like 3-4 months, and we'll see what we get for it. Well, they ended up getting like $380,000 for it. So it was up more than what, you know, so we can do the same thing, right? Put it out there, it's not harming us sitting in our station. Put it out there for 6 months and see what we can get for it.
Like approach.
Any other thoughts?
What was that?
Is it any other thoughts? Okay. So probably an ongoing conversation. You'll see it in finance. We have an agenda item for that then too. But yeah, if you guys think of any other ideas, things that we should be looking into, please share. We're happy to follow up. DJ, if you want to sit down with Chris Kunzman, he's the president of that group. You can
Yeah, you can have a chat with him.
have a chat with him.
No, he's
I
a,
wasn't trying to.
he's not the
start that.
president, he's a treasurer.
Oh, he's the treasurer? Oh.
You can have a chat with him.
There you go.
I was not trying to stir
I-
the pot.
No, you're
Well, you know, and then
And
again, there was a lot of, this board has been awesome. Since I took over as chief, the board that I've been working with has been awesome to get along. Everything, really good, but back 20 years ago, it wasn't the case. And so that's why the association was formed, was to keep our fundraising piece of it separate from the village and not to allow that, because they wanted everything. They always took everything and just put it back to the general fund. So that, and I know that that has been contentious for years. It's been kind of quiet now, but the conversation back then was, well, if we have to be forced to fundraise, then DPW and all them should be forced to fundraise too. Because we are a municipal department, not a contracted department, right? So.
Correspondence,
Yeah, nothing.
items for future consideration.
The only thing is, trustee Searing, I know that you had mentioned about wanting to have these types of meetings at least somewhat regularly. What do you foresee? Do you want to meet back in 6 months? If there's any agenda items to talk about, we can. What do you want this to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need them more often than we were having them.
Sure.
So how do you guys feel about 6 months?
Say at least 6 months.
This is the first one I had.
Oh, yeah, we just,
The last one was hiring the marshal.
March 9th of 24.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was the minutes we approved.
Yeah.
So,
And, we're obviously a small community. It's not like we have tons of public safety things going on,
Yeah.
but,
and if
these
we have
things
to have
come
an
up and-
emergency one,
I remember when my first term, I was chair of public safety. And I think the previous meeting had been a couple of years.
That's what I said, it's,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
are big gaps in between.
So,
So it's not meant to be like gotta meet every month kind of thing, but,
No.
but we still do check-ins.
yeah, and if we have anything emergency, we can always hold a emergency one. I'd say 6 months is good.
That's fine. Sounds good. We'll put it on our calendar there.
I guess then I have another concern. I know that this isn't very, I mean, I understand the average vehicle speed was 28 miles an hour over 30,000 vehicles, but looking through the speed trap times on some of these at 60 plus miles an hour going down the main road. I don't know if you've seen all of those, but I've noticed that a lot of these 60 plus mile an hour ones are right around the same time of the morning. 50, even these like 50 mile an hour plus ones, a lot of them are between like 7:30 AM and 9 AM, 10 AM. Is it possible we have discussions with either the marshal or even the county to try to make sure we can try to start patrolling that street a little more during those busy hours?
And I know it helps when we have the speed trap sign out too. I mean, that's sometimes more of a deterrent than even the marshal
Yeah.
parked somewhere.
I mean, because some of the like 67 miles an hour seems ridiculous, like that's absurd. And I mean, even 40 plus already in a 25 is moving pretty good, but when you start, I was like really shocked when I started seeing 67, 63, 65. And a lot of them are, well, that 65 was in the like PM, but a lot of them, I mean, the 67 was at 7:15 in the morning.
Well, yeah, I'll pass it along to the marshal's office. So kind of like that 7 AM to 9 AM window, which you're looking at.
Yeah, if one of them are available, otherwise if he can coordinate with the county to.
Yep.
Where was this board at? It said. It says Fredonia Ave, but I can't remember where it said.
It was at one of those two intersections
Okay.
that you asked us to look at.
Not
This
saying
is-
that this is what those were, but I mean, that system does not discern between emergency vehicles and private vehicles, so. Maybe it was the sheriff on his way to emergency call. Maybe, I don't know how fast y'all emergency people drive down the main drag, but
Faster than the speed limit, I'll tell you that, but,
I've never seen you go 60.
I've never seen anybody at 60, no. But it could be a deputy flying through town. too.
Or I'm wondering if some of these could be UTV traffic now,
Mm,
guys pushing speeds with their UTVs.
Those are 2020.
Oh, okay, yeah, they're 20. Oh, yeah, wow.
Are we still on future?
Yeah.
Yep. Like I said, I'll pass it along to the marshal's office now. That'd be great.
I have heard a couple of complaints on ATVs recently.
Yep.
Might be something that we want to visit. Seems to be juveniles. More than adults. And
I know I just asked the marshal about that, just about a week ago, and I don't think he had heard like 0 complaints on the ATVs.
so they just go on social media.
Yeah.
And complain to directly to
Mhm.
current and former trustees.
They were coming through our subdivision. I looked, I was sitting on the porch and I looked, and I was like.
Yep.
Kids look awful, yeah. I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong, cause my nephew, 16, 17, almost 17. He looks 12.
Was it a red ATV?
It was 2 of them. They had their gear on, they had their helmets on, so you couldn't see their faces.
I know like 11 o'clock on the 4th, there was like a whole line of them that came rolling through the Pine Street division.
Well, I'm
Had
sure.
like the antenna lights on there and blaring music, and I was like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Cruising.
they were just out cruising around and they just drove around and then went back out.
But this was the first time I've ever seen, and they just kept going around the block.
Yeah.
That was the first time I've seen any, really.
Linda said she saw him up there today, up in your area.
Okay.
She was up there picking up another kid.
I have an idea who it might be, but I
Yeah.
don't know who it is, so I can't really say anything.
We did have that meeting tonight, kickoff meeting with McMahon and Associates to almost start collecting all the data and information for fire and EMS stuff. So that study is supposed to be done in 4 months. They're talking about having a report potentially in November, so it might be a good time right after that for us to get back together with this group. And maybe have a little discussion on what that future may look like after that report's available too.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So you
Great.
think in December?
Probably like October, November time. Yep. We'll try not to flood your calendars in December.
Do you have anything else? Future? All right,
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
all right, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Saying it. Oops.